So yesterday, when I decided that this was the video that I was going to make today, I sat down and I wrote up a list of all of the video games that I have fond memories of, or that I really enjoy. And that list is insanely long. This list is crazy. It was well over 50 games, and so narrowing it down to a top 10 was much harder than I anticipated it being. I remember yesterday when I got the idea to do this video, I was like, it'll be a piece of cake. It'll be a piece of cake. I'll sit down, I'll write down my 10 favorite games, obviously, and oh boy, that was not the case. That was not the case at all. So there are a lot of games that didn't make this list that I still really enjoy. I mean, the initial list includes games ranging from Cuphead to DX Ball 2. If you remember DX Ball 2, that's a fucking throwback right there. But after a lot of careful thought and deliberation, I was able to come up with a list of my 10 favorite games of all time. I will say, disclaimer here, League is not on this list, Overwatch is not on this list. Pretty much the only category of game that I decided to exclude from this list are games that are like sinks for thousands and thousands of hours and that are meant to be played competitively as well as recreationally. So you won't see any of those on this list, but other than that, I went to every platform I could possibly remember playing on and came up with an amazing list that is purely my opinion. I know for a fact a lot of people are not going to agree with this list, but it's all the games that are very near and dear to my heart. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 10, Close Combat, A Bridge Too Far. Oh yeah, you're seeing this correctly. On this list is a top-down World War II themed RTS released in 1997. I was 1 year old when this game came out, and boy, let me tell you, when I started playing it way back in the day, this is one of the first games I remember playing on our family computer at the time, like a Windows 98 machine, and it was fantastic, and I've played it recently. I just bought a couple years back, I bought a fully sealed box version of this game that came with the disc, and my goodness, beautiful and nostalgia for years. So like I said, this game was released in 97. It was my first RTS, one of my first video games, and in my opinion, this is still probably my favorite RTS to play. It is just incredibly fun. The units are so varied depending on who you're playing. The strategy is amazing, and especially for the time that it was released back in 97, it feels pretty freaking advanced in terms of graphics as well as strategy and little nuances in the game like morale and things like that, you know, I don't see as being features from a 1997 RTS. This game is also home to one of my very first real memorable moments of rage at a video game, because I typically play as the Allied forces, so American, British, and I believe Polish in this game. And, you know, I'll be wiping the floor with them. I'll be wiping the floor with the Germans. I'll be just stomping on through. I'll decide, hey, now it's time to move my armored units in and just finish this push right off. That is until the game is like, hey, young, download some RAM. I know you're playing on the easiest difficulty and you're 7 years old at the time, but here, hold this L. And some fucking German, like, light infantryman who's like the last guy in his squad, he's wounded or injured or some shit, pulls out his Panzerfaust and just blows up my Sherman tanks. Because I'll tell you what, apparently the two main fucking building ingredients in the Sherman tank are PVC pipe and Band-Aids. Number 9, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Now, if you know your boy, you know I am a huge fan of the Mortal Kombat franchise, and I have been ever since I first played a version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on the PlayStation 1 back in the very early 2000s at my uncle's house. And oh boy, let me tell you about how it stuck with me ever since. To this day, I love playing Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. It is hands down my favorite and, in my personal opinion, the best Mortal Kombat game that's ever been released. It just feels very fluid. It is super fast paced, but it's not crazily reliant on special moves like the newer Mortal Kombats have been. The combat feels a little clunkier and slower nowadays, in my opinion, because, you know, they're like, hey, NetherRealm Studios is like, hey, we have a successful fighting game in Injustice, we have a successful fighting franchise in Mortal Kombat, let's go ahead and just make Mortal Kombat like Injustice and make it shit-ass garbage. I know you're watching this, Daniel. You'll never convince me that new Mortal Kombat and Injustice are good. Number 8, Mario 3. So I grew up in the era of the PlayStation 2, right? That was the console that dominated my childhood, that and the Xbox 360. And before I had a PlayStation 2, however, I did not have a Nintendo 64. I did not have a PlayStation 1. I did not have a GameCube. I didn't have a Dreamcast. No, I had an NES. And I had one game for the NES, and that game just so happened to be the most mind-bogglingly amazing platformer, in my opinion, ever made. It is fantastic. It redefined platformers, pretty much. I mean, the controls are just so tight, the music is gorgeous, the aesthetic is absolutely timeless. You can't find a better aesthetic for an 8-bit console. And I guarantee, if you've ever played Mario 3 even once, as soon as you load into World 1, you know exactly the theme song that'll be playing during the overworld. You know it as well as I do, because it's burned into our minds because the soundtrack is just that good. Also, personal anecdote, it actually ended up taking me like almost probably I would say roughly a decade to beat this game. So I remember playing this back when I was, younger than 10 years old. And I think the first time I ever beat it was when I was 16, and I didn't even beat the NES version. I beat the Mario 3 port to the Nintendo Wii while it was hooked up to the entertainment system in our minivan at the time. I was in the back seat. We were coming home from a day of skiing and snowboarding at a resort, and that was the first ever time that I beat Mario 3, one of the proudest moments of my life. Number 7, Ratchet and Clank Going Commando and Ratchet Deadlocked. So these games are tied for several reasons, one of which is that they share so many common elements, while at the same time being super different in terms of actual core gameplay style. So in Ratchet Deadlocked, you have this arena mission-based sort of gameplay, whereas in Ratchet and Clank Going Commando, you have that semi-open world feel, where you travel to different planets and complete a whole bunch of different objectives that way. That being said, Insomniac Games knows what works in their games. The humor is incredible in both of the games, and in my opinion, Ratchet Deadlocked handles a little bit tighter. The controls are a little bit tighter, but that's to be expected considering that Deadlocked is the 4th game in the series and Going Commando is the 2nd. So that's just natural progression at that point. It's sort of evolving and polishing up their games a little bit more. But honestly, I couldn't choose between the two. They're both fantastic, and I absolutely love them equally, except for, I will say, standout character in Ratchet Deadlocked. We all know who I'm talking about. Number 6, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You knew this was gonna be on the list. It is none other than the greatest first-person shooter of all time, ever made. The best there ever was or ever will be. We didn't see it coming when it was released. Millions of others, we didn't see it coming. And it shoved its right up our and brought us in to the modern age of gaming. And we loved every single second of it. It is one of my favorite games of all time. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I don't give a shit that it's the birthplace of cringe and the dank meme, because my God, nothing in the world felt quite like taking double Rangers, right? Rangers Akimbo or some G18 Silence Akimbo, and just popping the fuck off on Favela. Hello, everyone. It is 8:49 p.m. right now, so I am going to split this video into 2 parts because it is taking a whole lot of time to edit. The video ended up being significantly longer than I thought it would, which is fine. That's a good thing. I like long content. So look out for the top 5 tomorrow. as well as some honorable mentions thrown in there. And I think that'll be about it for today. If you liked it, go ahead, subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you can stay tuned. If you liked the video, like it. If you didn't, then yeah, you can dislike it. That's okay. You're not obligated to me or in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I will catch you guys later. Thank you for watching. And, outro. Is that a fucking FAMAS?